Let me start by saying something to you that you might not want to admit out loud. If this new year feels heavier instead of hopeful, if you thought you'd feel motivated and instead you feel emotionally tired or strangely flat, if you're questioning yourself even though you know you've grown, nothing has gone wrong. You're not failing. You're healing. You're not slipping backwards, and you're definitely not broken. You are grieving. Not the loss of a person, not the loss of a relationship. You're grieving who you used to be. And no one talks about this part of growth because we're taught that healing should feel like relief, expansion, clarity. But real transformation doesn't start with freedom. It starts with loss. And if you don't understand this grief, you'll keep thinking that something is wrong with you, when in reality, your system is doing exactly what it's meant to do. So if something in you feels tender, unsettled, or quite sad right now, stay with me. This conversation might be the first time you realise you're not stuck. You're standing at a threshold. If we haven't met yet, hi, I'm Cherry. I'm a spiritual life coach, numerologist, and energy alchemist. And I work with people who are done surviving and are ready to actually live from their truth. People who've spent years people-pleasing, over-giving, holding it all together, and are now in that strange in-between space where the old version of them doesn't fit, but the new version hasn't fully landed yet. And if that's you, I want you to know something right now. This work isn't about fixing you. It's about helping your nervous system feel safe, safe enough to let go of who you had to be, so that you can step into who you are becoming without the guilt, fear, or self-betrayal. This episode is the first part of a January series all about grief, not the kind we talk about openly, but the grief of identity change, the grief of outgrowing old roles, old patterns, old versions of yourself. So let me slow this down. Together we let your body actually hear what your soul already knows. Why growth feels like loss. Before we go anywhere, before I teach you anything, before we name or fix or reframe, I want you to let your body arrive here. Not your mind, not your I've listened to loads of podcasts. So wherever you are right now, driving, walking, lying down, just soften your jaw for a moment. Unclench your teeth. Drop your shoulders an inch. Good. Because this conversation isn't for the part of you that wants answers. It's for the part of you that's been quietly grieving and doesn't have the language for it. And if January has felt heavier instead of hopeful, if you expected motivation and got emotional, if you thought you'd feel new and instead you feel tender, nostalgic, or strangely flat, I need you to hear this clearly. Nothing has gone wrong. You are not regressing. You are not behind. You are not failing your healing. You're just grieving, but not in the way you've been taught to recognize. This is not the grieving of someone, not the grief of a breakup or an ending you didn't choose. This is the grief of outgrowing an identity. And no one warned you about this part. We're sold this fantasy that growth feels expansive, exciting, freeing. Then when you heal, you'll feel lighter immediately. That when you step into a new chapter, the old one just closes neatly. And that's bullshit. Real growth feels like loss before it feels like freedom. Because the old version of you, she wasn't imaginary. She had a job. She learned how to read moods. She learned how to anticipate reactions. She learned how to keep the peace, keep herself safe, keep things predictable. She learned how to survive. And even if that survival came at the cost of your authenticity, even if it drained you, even if it disconnected you from your body, she worked. So when you begin to grow, your system doesn't celebrate first. It mourns. And that mourning doesn't always look like crying. Sometimes it looks like tiredness or irritability or zoning out or even thinking about the past more than usual, or questioning yourself when nothing is actually wrong. Let's slow this down because I want you to really understand this, not just nod along. When you change, you don't just change behaviors, you change predictability. And predictability is what the nervous system clings to for safety. So when you stop people-pleasing, when you stop over-explaining, when you stop bending yourself into shapes that feel familiar, your body goes, wait, who are we now? And that moment, that's where grief lives. Not because you want to go back, but because you can't. And that realization can be devastating in a quiet way. There is a specific sadness that comes with knowing I can't unknow what I know. I can't shrink back into who I was. I can't pretend anymore, even if pretending once kept you safe. And here's where I'm going to gently call you out, lovingly, but firmly. A lot of people say they want to grow, but what they actually want is change without loss. They want the benefits without the goodbyes. And that's not how identity transformation works. You don't just gain a new self. You lose an old one, and loss deserves to be honoured. If you don't honour it, it doesn't disappear. It just shows up sideways as self-doubt, procrastination, emotional eating, scrolling, numbing, or pulling back from life. Not because you're weak, but because your grief hasn't been witnessed. So let me ask you something. And don't answer from your head. Answer from your body. Who were you 5 years ago that you no longer get to be? The version of you who said yes automatically. The one who smoothed things over, the one who stayed quiet to avoid conflict, the one who held everything together. There's grief there, and some of you feel guilty for even naming that grief, because you think, but I wasn't happy back then. You don't grieve because it was good. You grieve because it was known. Familiarity creates attachment, even to pain, and your body doesn't care if something was healthy. It cares if it was predictable. That's why toxic dynamics feel hard to leave. That's why old patterns feel seductive under stress. That's why healing can be disorientating, because healing removes the map and suddenly you're in an open terrain. Now here's where I want to pause and bring you into your body again. If you're able, place one hand on your chest and one hand on your belly. Notice your breath without changing it. Just notice and gently say out loud if you can, internally if not, I am allowed to grieve who I used to be. Say it again, slower. I am allowed to grieve who I used to be. Notice what happens. You might feel emotional. You might feel resistance. You might feel nothing. All of it is okay. The body doesn't open on command. It opens with safety, and safety starts with permission. Back to the truth most people avoid. Grief doesn't mean you're moving backwards. It means your system is reorganizing. Think of it like this. When you renovate a house, you don't live comfortably during the demolition. There's dust, noise, disruption, but that doesn't mean the house is collapsing. It means it's being rebuilt. And right now, some of you are standing in the rubble of an identity that no longer fits. Of course, that feels unsettling. Of course, January doesn't feel shiny. January is a threshold month. It's liminal. It's between who you were and who you're becoming. And liminal spaces are uncomfortable by nature. They strip certainty. They strip labels. They strip old roles, which is why your mind keeps trying to rush ahead. Who am I now? What's next? What should I be doing? Slow down. The body needs time to catch up to the soul. And this is where I want to be really clear, because this is where people get stuck for years. I know I did. If you don't allow yourself to grieve the old identity, you will keep resurrecting it in moments of fear. You'll say, I thought I was past this. I don't know why I'm doing this again. It's because you never said goodbye. You just tried to evolve faster than your nervous system could follow. Growth without grief creates fragmentation. Growth with grief creates integration. So if this part feels emotional, if your chest feels heavy, if your throat feels tight, that's not weakness. That's honesty. And honesty is the doorway to embodiment. We're not trying to rush you through this. We're not trying to heal it quickly. We're letting it be real. Because when you allow grief to be present, it stops controlling you from the background. It becomes a passenger instead of a prison. And we're only just beginning. Before I close, I want to leave you with this. If this episode stirred something, if you felt emotional, reflective, unsettled, or deeply seen, that's not because you're falling apart. It's because you're in the middle of a transition, and transitions deserve space. What we explored today was part 1 of a 4-part January series on grieving who you were so you can make space for who you're becoming. In this first part, we named the grief. We stopped pathologizing it. We let it be human instead of something to fix or rush through. In part 2, we're going to talk about why your nervous system clings to the old you, even when you know that version no longer serves you. In part 3, we'll explore how to release an identity without rejecting your past, and how to stop resurrecting old patterns under stress. And in part 4, we'll focus on embodiment, what it actually means to live as a new version of you, without forcing, proving, or performing. So for now, Don't rush to make sense of everything. Don't try to do anything with this. Just notice what's shifted. And if you're feeling like this grief is showing up most strongly around boundaries, relationships, or your sense of self, that's exactly the work I support people through inside my Stop People Pleasing Breakthrough session and self-empowerment strategy sessions. Not to fix you, but to help you cross this threshold consciously. Because grief isn't the end of who you were. It's the doorway to who you're becoming. And this is only the beginning. So don't forget to subscribe. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss the next episode in this series. Bye for now.